My journey began not with a shout, but with a whisper. A quiet lump in my neck, a doctor's gentle but firm words. "We need to take it out," he said. The words were simple. The reality was not. A total thyroidectomy. The removal of a small, butterfly-shaped gland that had been with me my entire life. I felt a strange sense of betrayal. My body, this vessel I trusted, was harboring something that needed to be evicted. The diagnosis echoed a different kind of pain, the ghost of a heartbreak that still lingered in my chest. I was learning that some things must be cut away to allow for new growth, a lesson I had been avoiding for far too long. The weeks leading up to the surgery were a blur of fear and strange hope. I cried often. I cried for the part of me I was about to lose. I cried for the relationships that had ended, leaving scars just as real as the one that would soon grace my neck. Each tear felt like a release, a letting go of something I couldn't control. Friends and family surrounded me with a fortress of love. They brought food. They offered prayers. Their support was a soft blanket in the cold room of my anxiety. I found myself praying, not for a miracle to avoid the surgery, but for the strength to walk through it. I prayed for a clean cut, both physically and emotionally. My nights were restless, filled with thoughts of the future. What would it feel like to live without a part of my own body? How would I adjust to a life dependent on a tiny pill every single morning? The questions were big and heavy. They sat on my chest, making it hard to breathe. I thought about the man who broke my heart, how I had given him a piece of myself, only for it to be discarded. This surgery felt similar, but this time, the removal was on my terms. It was a choice for health, a choice for life. It was a radical act of self-preservation, a declaration that I was worth saving. Before the dawn of my surgery day, I stood in front of the mirror. I touched the soft skin of my neck, right over the silent thyroid. I said goodbye. It was a quiet, personal ceremony, a farewell to the gland that regulated my energy, my warmth, my rhythm. But it was also a farewell to the old me, the me who accepted less than she deserved, the me who held on to pain because it was familiar. In that moment, I felt a profound shift. I was not just a patient going into surgery. I was a warrior, preparing for a battle that would ultimately set me free. The fear was still there, but now, it was accompanied by a powerful sense of resolve. The hospital was a world of its own. Bright lights, the smell of antiseptic, and the quiet hum of machines. I changed into a thin blue gown, a uniform for the vulnerable. Nurses with kind eyes and efficient hands checked my vitals. They spoke in calm, reassuring tones. The anesthesiologist explained how I would drift off to sleep, a temporary surrender. I signed papers, giving my consent, my trust. It felt like signing a treaty, a peace accord with my own body. I was handing over control, trusting these strangers to care for me, to remove the damaged part and leave the rest of me whole. It was a profound act of letting go. Lying on the gurney, being wheeled toward the operating room, I watched the ceiling tiles slide by. They were a monotonous, endless grid. I thought about how much of my life had been spent looking up, hoping for answers. My mother held my hand until the very last moment. Her grip was my anchor. "I love you," she whispered. Those words were my shield. I closed my eyes and imagined all the love from my friends and family, forming a protective bubble around me. I was not alone. In that sterile hallway, I felt wrapped in a warmth that had nothing to do with hospital blankets. It was the warmth of unwavering support. The operating room was colder, more intimidating. It was a space of sharp steel and focused minds. I saw the surgeon's masked face, his eyes conveying a confidence that eased my own fears. "We will take good care of you," he promised. I chose to believe him. As the medication began to flow into my veins, a cool sensation spread through my arm. My last conscious thought was not one of fear, but of peace. I was surrendering to the process, to the healing. I was allowing myself to be broken open so that I could be put back together again, stronger and more complete than before. It was a deep, dreamless sleep. Waking up was a slow, foggy process. I was in the recovery room. A nurse's voice gently called my name. My throat was sore and a thick bandage was taped across my neck. The first thing I did was reach up and touch it. It was real. The surgery was over. The thyroid was gone. I felt a wave of emotions wash over me. Relief, grogginess, and a strange sense of emptiness. The space in my neck felt hollow. A kind nurse gave me a small cup of water, and the simple act of swallowing was a victory. In that quiet room, I began to understand that this was not just an ending. It was the very first moment of a new beginning. The first time I held the tiny white pill in my hand, its significance felt immense. This was it. This was my new thyroid. A synthetic replacement for the organ I had lost. Every morning for the rest of my life, I would start my day with this small ritual, a glass of water and this pill. It was a constant physical reminder of what was gone. At first, it felt like a burden, a daily acknowledgement of my body's new deficiency. It was a symbol of my dependence, a chain linking me to the surgery and the loss. I mourned the effortless, unconscious work my thyroid had done for so many years without any thanks. But slowly, my perspective began to shift. This daily pill wasn't a chain, it was a lifeline. It was a promise of energy, of clarity, of life itself. Taking it became a mindful practice, an act of self-care. It was me, actively choosing to give my body what it needed to thrive. Each morning, as I swallowed the pill, I started to say a small prayer of gratitude. Thank you for this medicine. Thank you for this new day. It transformed a chore into a sacred moment of self-love. It was a daily declaration that I was committed to my own well-being, a promise I had often broken in past relationships. The scar on my neck began to heal, fading from a raw red line to a soft, pale silver mark. I decided not to hide it with scarves or high-collared shirts. It was my story, etched onto my skin. It spoke of a battle I had fought and won. It was a reminder of my resilience. Just like the scar, my emotional wounds were also healing. The removal of my thyroid felt like a physical manifestation of removing the toxic pain from my past. I had cut out the source of the problem, the part of me that had been malfunctioning and causing me harm. I was no longer defined by the ache of heartbreak. This new reality required a new way of living. I had to listen to my body more carefully than ever before. I had to learn its new language, its new needs for rest and energy. This forced intimacy with myself was a gift. I had spent so many years looking for wholeness in another person, hoping they would complete me. Now, I was learning to complete myself. The surgery had forced me to become my own caretaker, my own advocate, my own source of consistent love. The pill was not a sign of weakness. It was a tool for my empowerment, a key that unlocked my ability to build a new, healthier life from the inside out. As I healed, a new idea took root in my mind. It was the concept of polygamy, not in the traditional sense of multiple spouses, but as a metaphor for my heart. For so long, I had practiced emotional monogamy, giving my entire heart to one person, hoping they would be my everything. When that love failed, I was left shattered and empty. The surgery taught me that relying on one single source for something so vital was a fragile way to live. My body now relied on a pill, my faith, and my own actions for balance. My heart, I realized, needed a similar kind of diversified support system. I decided to practice a new kind of love, a polygamy of the heart. I would no longer seek a single person to be my sun, my moon, and all my stars. Instead, I would cultivate multiple, meaningful sources of love and fulfillment. I invested deeply in my friendships, nurturing them with time and vulnerability. I poured love into my family, showing up for them as they had shown up for me. I found love in my creative passions, in my work, in my community. I even found a new, profound love for myself, a steady and unconditional affection that became my foundation. My heart was now married to many, and it had never felt so full. This new philosophy was liberating. It took the immense pressure of any single relationship. It allowed me to love others more freely, without the desperate need for them to be my sole source of happiness or validation. My faith also became a cornerstone of this new life. I found a deep personal connection with God, a love that was constant and unwavering. Prayer was no longer a plea from a place of fear, but a conversation from a place of gratitude and strength. This spiritual love was a powerful partner in my polygamous heart, providing a sense of peace and purpose that no human relationship ever could. Today, when I look in the mirror, I see a woman I'm proud to know. I see the faint line on my neck, a beautiful symbol of my journey from loss to liberation. My life is not about finding the one anymore. It's about building a life so rich and full of love from many sources that it overflows. This is my new beginning. It is a testament to the idea that sometimes we must lose a part of ourselves to find a more whole, more resilient, and more loving version of who we were always meant to be. My heart is spacious and full, and for the first time, its primary commitment is to itself.